Hi, I'm Scott Merriweather, the short sale engineer. You're here because you want to know how to buy a short sale. There's really a lot to buying a short sale. I've been working on short sales for 6 or 7 years now, and there's a lot to it. Unfortunately, we don't have time on this video to go into any real depth, but I want to give you a primer here. At the end of this, I am going to invite you to a webinar where you can get more in-depth information about buying a short sale, and you can ask questions as well so you can be better prepared to buy a short sale. Our friend here on the right looks like he's prepared to dive into the subject, so put your goggles on, let's all dive in together. Now again, we're going to go over the basics here. We'll call it Short Sale 101. Who can do a short sale? Basically, a seller who can no longer afford to make their mortgage payments. There must be some sort of financial hardship, a decline in income, involuntary increase in expenses. Basically, the homeowner can no longer afford to make their mortgage payment. But they really want to avoid foreclosure, and in order to do that, they have to sell the house. The bad news is they're in a situation where the house is worth less than what they owe. Example of that might be their combined mortgage balances or other liens might total $300,000, for example, and the fair market value might be $250,000. Well, they're upside down $50,000. That's a tough way to sell a house, especially when the seller doesn't have the assets or the cash to pay the difference. This might be someone who might be qualified to do a short sale. How does this translate to a great deal for a buyer? Well, not only is the homeowner upside down, but the bank's upside down as well. The bank does not want to foreclose. There are a lot of reasons for that. We won't go into it. The bank doesn't want to take the house into their inventory. There's a lot of risk and expense involved for the bank, but because of that, the bank will intentionally discount their payoff, even potentially below what they think fair market value is. And because of that, a buyer can sometimes get a really good deal on a short sale. Let's talk a little bit about how the basics of how the short sale works. The house must be listed with an agent. The bank requires that. The buyer makes a written offer to the seller, and the seller accepts or signs the written offer. The seller then sends the offer to the bank for approval, and the bank agrees in writing. Now, this is a little fantasy of how fast it's going to work. We all know it's not going to be this quick. The important part of this agreement from the bank is that it is in writing, but it's between the bank and the seller. It is not between the bank and the buyer. Very key aspect of understanding what you have to look out for approaching buying a short sale and what you need to cover yourself for. The deal closes and everyone wins. That's the way a short sale is designed to work. So let's talk a little bit about what you've heard about short sales. Short sales are great bargains, and that is absolutely true. Some short sales are great bargains and some are not. There are some short sales you do not want to touch with a 10-foot pole. Something else you may have heard about short sales is avoid short sales like the plague. Most realtors are very frustrated with short sales, and that happens mostly because most realtors don't have the experience necessary to help buyers get through a short sale with success, even certified distressed property experts. Now, a certified distressed property expert is someone who, in the process of getting their continuing education credits to keep their license current, they've gone to a class for a day or two and had an instructor teach them about how to be a distressed property expert. Unfortunately, while that might shorten their curve, that doesn't necessarily make them an expert, and it certainly doesn't give them the experience they need to be successful with short sales, in my opinion. Many buyers have also had bad experiences, and a lot of that is because of the issue above, where the certified distressed property experts don't have the experience they really need for success. Now let's talk about the truth about short sales. Problems are common, we know that. The problems can be avoided, however. Short sales do involve risk, but mostly that risk is time if done right. You really should not be putting your money at risk in a short sale, and you can avoid doing that if done correctly. And a good real estate agent will help you do that correctly. Short sales can be well worth the time risk, but there is no free lunch. Anytime there is value and a benefit, there is a cost. Now with short sales, mostly it's time, and there should not be a lot of money at risk. If there is no risk, there's not going to be much reward. Risk versus reward is always something you need to take into consideration, and let's talk a little bit about the process of buying a house in general. You can either look for the best house, look for the fastest closing, look for the cheapest house. Realistically, you need to pick any two. You can get the best house fast, but it's not going to be cheap. You can close a house fast and get it cheap, but it's probably going to be a stinker of a house. You can get the best house and the cheapest house, But that's generally going to take a long time. As John Adams says, you have to see a lot of houses and make a lot of offers. The best place to approach short sales is to consider your goals. Do you really need to get a great deal, or do you want to get a good deal? Is a good deal good enough for you, or do you want what you want when you want it? All of these things need to be considered when approaching a short sale. When it comes to short sales, you don't want to try this at home. There are just too many moving parts. There are too many gotchas in a short sale, so you really need the help of an experienced agent. Experience is absolutely a must, or you can get into some really serious trouble quickly. Bad things can happen, but they can be avoided. Let's go through these really fast. We don't have much time. Short sales can take a very long time. They don't have to, though. There are a lot of short sales that don't take a very long time. You can get tied up in a bad deal with no way to escape. You can have earnest money online, and you can be trapped in a bad deal for a very long time. You don't want that to happen, and you can avoid that. A lot of times there's no visibility with a short sale. A buyer is in a situation where they're relying on the seller's real estate agent to communicate with the bank, and there's a lot that can go on back and forth that you cannot know about that's very important to short sale success. Does a seller's hardship qualify, for example? Does the house qualify for a short sale? Is the seller motivated to cooperate and close? There are a lot of sellers who have kind of given up and they don't really care if the house forecloses if they get the short sale completed. You need to understand and know that, and that can be taken care of. How many lenders, also known as lien holders, do we need to get approval for? The more lien holders we need to get approval for, the less likely we are to be successful. Important things to know and understand. Will the lien holders forgive the seller's remaining debt, also known as a deficiency? And what if they won't? Important question to understand and know the answer when you're working on a short sale. Have other offers been submitted? Very important aspect to a short sale. Is it really pre-approved? And what does that mean? There are a lot of short sales that are listed as pre-approved, may or may not be accurate depending on the situation. And if it hasn't been pre-approved, hasn't been pre-approved by all lien holders. Is it an FHA mortgage? Does it meet FHA guidelines if it is? Is the house vacant or is the seller moved out? If so, is the seller qualified for a variance? Has there been a bankruptcy? If there has been a bankruptcy on an FHA short sale, that's generally a showstopper. Is it a half a short sale? That's another issue that needs to be understood. Very much like FHA, HAFA is a Home Affordable Foreclosure Alternatives. It's a government program. If it is a half a short sale, does it meet HAFA guidelines? Again, is the house vacant? Is there a bankruptcy? Generally a showstopper if it is a bankruptcy. Will the first position lien holder be paid off in full? If so, if we're just shorting the second mortgage, that can be a really great short sale and a really great bargain to be had if that's true. Something to be understood. Another bad thing that needs to be avoided is a lack of seller commitment. If the seller's lender does not forgive their deficiency, they may decide not to close. What gives them the ability to make that decision, I've put up here an excerpt from the Georgia Association of Realtors, a short sale exhibit that realtors are provided to attach to a short sale contract. One of the clauses here that's very important is, you can see highlighted here, this agreement is therefore contingent upon the seller's mortgage lenders and, if applicable, other lien holders agreeing to, you can see number one, take a reduced payoff. Number two here is the most important part, release the seller from any claim, cause of action, or suit for any deficiency. What this means is that if the lender does not forgive the deficiency, the seller does not have to close. And sometimes the seller will choose not to close because it's a bargaining chip and a little leverage they can apply against the lender in the short sale negotiation. This is something you don't want to be tied up in, because you can get to the closing after waiting a fairly long time for approval, only to get that approval from the lender and then the seller decide to back out. Not a situation you want to be in. This is something that you want to avoid, and it can be avoided. Another lack of seller commitment is that many sellers agents want to keep the house on the market listed as active in the multiple listing service to attract more and better offers. If you're spending your time on a short sale, you do not want the house to continue to be marketed so that they can find a better offer. You want to avoid this situation and not let this happen. Sometimes the seller wants to force a buyer commitment. They want you to pay for inspections or appraisals before lender approval. This is not a situation you want to be in. You can easily lose $800 to $1,000 or more, and there is a big risk here with no reward. You don't want that to happen. The important part is you want to work with a pro. All of these problems can be overcome, but you don't want to try this at home. You really need the experience of a good agent. A professional short sale buyer's agent will make sure you're educated about these and other problems. A professional will educate and provide solutions. A professional will have a well-qualified team to help you find short sale success, and a professional will help you get a better deal. Go with a pro. Don't be someone's guinea pig while they try to figure out how to get short sales done. Now, we talked at the beginning of this video about the Short Sale Pro webinar where you can learn more and ask questions. To sign up, you may want to use your pause button here so you can write down this URL. Go to shortsaleengineer.com/buying.html. Go there, fill out the form. We'll send you your invitation to the webinar, and we look forward to seeing you there.